Good morning, everyone. I thought I would just drop by this morning for a few minutes and catch you up to what I'm doing here. Um, I've been really working a lot on this little journal, which is I call it my spirit stitching, and most of you have already seen the cover. I started with making the cover, and then I added the pages, and then I'm adding small pieces of spirit stitched art to the page, to the cloth pages that I put in. And so, and I think I did video on this one and this one and this, I think all three of those. And then these ones here I've added, and okay, I showed this one too. This was with some slashing, and then I added some felting to that one. And then these two, I believe I did a video with these two, and I don't know what causes that. I don't see a shadow as I look right down here, but when I look at my screen, I see a shadow. It must come from, I don't know what it comes from, so I don't know if it shows up a shadow as it replays. I don't know. But anyhow, this is some of my felting, which in the past, years ago, in fact, I figured it was like 15 years ago that I first bought my wool that I could use for felting, because I took a class years ago, and I think it was about 15 years ago that I took a class at one of our local, um, it was actually a scrapbooking shop, but she had different instructors coming in and giving instruction, and I went and I took a class where I made a rug. Well, it was a rug. It wasn't very big. It was only like a good turkey platter size, um, and it was with the felting. And it was a different kind of felting though, because it wasn't. We didn't use the needles. We just used the felt together and the pressure of moisture and pressure to felt it together. And then I went from that to trying to. I made a few animals, but I was watching a lady that does felting, and she was the Serafina, and oh my gosh, she does some absolutely fabulous work. And at that time, I really didn't see a whole lot on felting on YouTube. Now there is gobs on felting. There is so much. But Serafina does, oh, she is amazing. Professional, beautiful. Her animals would look real. When, I mean, real. You'd think they're going to come up and bite you. And so I kind of got discouraged because I thought, no, I'll never be able to do that. So I put everything away. But then lately now I've pulled out my felt again because, oh, hang on a second. Okay, like I said, now I had to blow my nose. Sorry. I guess I didn't need to share that. Um, Watching Ariane Zurcher, who I have been watching religiously lately, and watching the things that she does, and I'm learning so much, or getting so much inspiration. I really don't do what she does, but parts of what she does gives me inspiration to keep going. And I pulled out my felt again because she uses felt mainly in like backgrounds of her art. And so these two, they've got fabric in for the flowers, but they have felt. A lot of felting is in this art. And so I still have a few pages to do in this book. This here piece of lace, this here, I believe, was a collar. I think this is the front of the collar, and it goes around the shoulder here. But this is a very, very vintage piece. It's discolored, and but it's not crocheted, it's not knitted. I do believe it's tatted. I believe the whole thing is tatting. But it is amazing how, if you can see here, like right in here, I got white behind it, so it's kind of hard. It's like threads, just threads. It's not like stitches, it's just threads that hold these stitches in, and of the flower in the center, if you can see that, it's like, but it looks tatted. I believe that this is a form of tatting, and it is just beautiful. And so I did not want to pull that apart at all. I didn't. A lot of pieces like this, I'll take them apart and use parts of them in things, but this, I wanted just to preserve this piece because it is so different, and it is just, I think, just beautiful. Just beautiful. I just keep looking at it, and I don't know, and maybe some of you might know, but like the stitches that are right in, all these stitches right in here, and then the stitches here, all of these right in here, they're almost like it's woven. It's like threads that are woven. Like this little circle right here. Well, let me see. Like this, gosh, I hope you can see. This circle here definitely looks tatted, and then every bit of this right here looks like it's woven thread, just woven, like a real loose weave. And it is absolutely beautiful. And these are, like here, they're almost like a knot. And so, which I never saw that in act like that in even tatting, but I believe this comes from long ago and far away, and it is just beautiful. It is. And so I just wanted to preserve that one piece just like it is. I don't want to, I think about, I believe it was a collar. I believe it was a collar that was used on, it makes me think so Victorian, or almost regal, or maybe even like that one, Judge Judy, she always wears the collars, and then the on the, what do you call that, Supreme Court lady, that Supreme Court lady, she wore these beautiful collars like this. But I believe this comes from very, very long ago, and it was maybe even white at first. But that's what I've got in this book so far, and so that's coming right along. And then I started this book too. And what I'm doing right now is just kind of re re-educating myself on this wool. Although I'm not educated on the wool, I don't know much about wool roving and um, and felting. I do know you take the roving. Well, it's first core wool and then roving, and then it's made into the spun into the yarns. And one thing I did find out was wool work or felting actually accidentally started way back BC. BC, way back. And what it was in the biblical days, they would take, they're walking and walking and walking, and so they would hand make their shoes, out of um, anything. They would have sandals, or they would use animal skins or whatever to make their shoes. Well, then when they walked and walked, well, those shoes would cause a lot of blisters on their feet and in between their toes and whatnot. And so what they would do was they would take mostly camel fur, but they would also, sheep's wool, camel wool, that kind of thing. Mostly at that time they used camel. People still can get camel wool, the camel wool, but it's kind of scarce, hard to get, and very expensive. But they would put this in their shoes to pad their shoes. Well, after walking for miles and miles with this camel wool in their shoes, it actually wet felted the shoe. A lot of people do wet felting now, and they mainly use um, to do it. They spray their wool with their they spray their wool with see, this is a little bit of wool roving right here. So this is went from the core wool to the roving, and then they take this and they spin it to make yarn. But so when they do wet felting, they're using this roving like this, but then they use a spray of soapy water, and it's wet felted together. So they don't use needles, they use pressure. And but using this, and also some use, I think it's alum or something along in with the soapy water, and something that they do to preserve the color. And I watched a real interesting video, but I didn't really take notes, but it was very interesting to hear. But when they pulled, when these people who were marching along for months and years in these shoes with this camel fur, then they'd add more when their camel, the wool from the camels would, flatten out too much, then they'd add more. And well, they ended up with these real, then they could pull that out of their shoe and they would have this amazing fabric that the wool from the camels felted together. And that was the first bit of fabric making, even before fabrics. Well, fabrics textiles come from forever ago, and I don't know all of that stuff. So, but anyhow, it is just very interesting to know these things. This is my book that I put this book together just for a lot of, just this one here is mainly for me to play with and learn more about felting. And so, but what I'm seeing on this, like I felted on these colors, the yellow and the brown here, and underneath here I have a piece of fabric. This fabric is underneath a piece of this sari fabric that come out of my rug fabric, and it's underneath there. But I laid, which this will actually felt right on it too. And some of the instructors say that you have to have wool. Well, this is not wool. This is some synthetic something, but it's got fibers in it. So you can still needle felt it. You can still needle felt it. And so, but it's underneath here a little bit. Then I took this crocheted piece. I took that crocheted piece. This was crocheted by Cordula, and she sent it to me, and in a collection of things she sent me. And so that is felted right on. So there's no stitching to hold this on, nothing, just the felting. The only thing stitched here are the buttons and and then I put French knots there. And so then here, this is the inside. I have decided that on this book, even the backside of felting is so pretty and it's so soft. And so I may add more things to this page because I just keep flipping through the different pages. And I may add more things to this page as I go along, or that's the inside of the cover. And then here, and each one of these pages is a piece of upholstery cloth. So I'm using upholstery cloth mostly for my background. And so here I layered things. I love layering anyway. So I took the wool and I just put some wool roving across, and then I needle felted it. But I have then a piece of a doily here and an applique right here, and then this is the orange is just thread. I wonder if I can pull you in any closer. I don't know too much about this thing yet. Okay, that's a little close. That's as close as I can get it. But and then this here is just some upholstery thread, not upholstery, um, just thread, just embroidery thread, and I just kind of laid it on there, and then felted it on with the needles, and and it felted right in there. So oh, and then I have a piece of cheesecloth under that one too. And then this is the back of it. This is the back. And how that is already so fuzzy. I've got a button on there. But and so and then leaving even the wool off of the edges. And I just love that look. I just love it. And so then and here I just use a piece. This was just threads then. What did I pull that thread off of? I pulled that thread off of something. I don't remember what I pulled that off of, but I pulled it off of something and just laid it on there to see if it would felt on, and it did. So, and just a little bit of yarn that I pulled apart on this one. I made that little peekaboo hole, and then see that peeks my button. It on this side I have a little bead and a button, and then on this side I have a button. It almost looks like that could be a ring. And so, but then again here I felted on some felt, some of the wool here. I have the button on there, and then this lace is put on here with this piece of um of yarn. Now, one of the videos that I seen said you can only felt if the yarn is wool. Well, I always test them, you know. I'm just a and I put a piece of that yarn along. I put that lace there. I put that piece of yarn along, and then I felted with the needle, and that yarn is what's holding this lace on the edge of this page. And this is acrylic. This is 100% acrylic yarn, but it still worked just fine. And you can pull this yarn apart. You can take a piece of that yarn and you can pull it apart like this. And you can see it goes back into the roving part. And even though this is acrylic, it's not wool, it will felt just like the wool will. And so if you're just starting out with some of this, know that you can use yarn like this too. I'm going to be Beth Schuler invited me to come as a guest on her live stream next Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock Eastern. This coming up Tuesday, which will be this coming up Tuesday. Whatever date that's going to be. But, and she's going to be able to teach me a lot. She said she teaches this stuff. And so I'm going to see she'll be able to show me even more of what I can do. Okay, and see how it comes through. I have the orange and it's like a lime green here, and see how it just comes through to the back. And so that can be part of an art page already, just what comes through when you're needle felting. And here I put a piece of it's like a lace, which I think this is very vintagey kind of a lace too. Maybe it was a part of a curtain, maybe real soft. So I laid that on there, and then laid some wool on there, and I needle felted that on there. And then I just put a running stitch around. And these are all sample pages for me, so I can go back and forth and add more as I learn new things that I want to add. And here I added that piece of lace this the same way, but I didn't use the yarn. I used a piece of felt of wool, and I needle felted that on. I'm going to show you in a minute using my felting pad. Um, and so just put, and all of these pages are made with upholstery samples, upholstery out of an upholstery sample book. So that's what they are, different kinds of upholstery. Then this one I went through with, I made the double page, and I went across with blues and whites on here, and then in the center with a more ground color, which with the browns, and here with the greens, and I just pulled them straight across. Now I'm learning too that it's best if you, like on this piece, put, I have cross hatched it. So on this piece, I've cross hatched, and I just started playing with this one. I got a lot more to play with on that. But this one, they're all straight across. So I think you can do either way and it'll be fine. This is a piece of fabric that I took a piece of my sari, this red, and it's all wrinkled. It's like that's how it pulled out of the rug when I pulled the rug apart. Then I washed it and dried it, and this is exactly what happened. But it's so crinkled in here, and it's so I just cut a piece off about that much, and then gathered it off, and then I came up with that beautiful flower. And then the leaves as well were a piece of the sari silk, but then I put thread over the silk. So there's two colors of green. So it starts with the silk, and then it's got thread over the top. And it went right through. And again, with a piece of yarn, which again, this is just an acrylic yarn, but and this one I didn't take it apart or anything. I love leaving these little ends on there. I think that's so pretty. And but that held the needle. This held this yarn, this lace, to this page, and I felted just right along. What I do is I use my, this is a felting pad right here. It's like a scrub brush almost, but it's a felting pad, and I like this kind the best. But this has got 7 needles in it. This is quite a dangerous obstacle. So if you go for a walk at night in the big city, carry one of these with you, and if somebody tries to bother you, just give them a good stabbing. That'll turn them off. But anyway, just stabbing across with this, because when you push it down, then all 7 of those needles will go into. Now you can felt even with 1 needle. You don't even need a handle, because each one of these needles, well, I can't get the top off, but anyway, maybe I'm not supposed to. It's on there tight. But anyway, there's 7 needles in there. You could take 1 needle and just needle felt with that 1 needle. And a lot of people only use 1 needle because the top of it is like a little L shape. It's like bent, and you can hold on to that and then just felt with 1 needle. So if you're felting in, like when you're if you're making like a little animal and you need to get little tiny bitty eyes on there, then you would use 1 single needle by itself. And so, but that's how and then it pushes all those threads, the fibers. I mean, they call this fiber art, and it is fibers, but it pulls those fibers right through. And so Then let's see, do I got anything else on here? Oh, then this here page. Oh, I just started playing with this one kind of. I got more to do on here, but here I cut a little slit there in that page. Then I stitched a little piece of doily on here, and I added a little piece of trim here, and but so that it's like a peekaboo thing. And I'm going to put something over here, so when the book is open this way, then something will peek through here, and when it's open this way, then something will peek through here. But this I'm just got started on, so I got a lot more to do there. And then I have a few more pages to play with, and this will get tied together with a nice, what I'll probably use here is just a piece of muslin fabric shredded, and I'll tie that, something very rustic, we'll tie that together. And then, like I say here now, this one here, what I did on this one is I took a piece of, I've got this is some gauze bandage, but this is really very old gauze bandage. I bought this from a on an auction where somebody was selling this, and I bought a piece because I said, yeah, I want to try that. So, but this is a real old. This is just genuinely old. And so see how I'm playing. I am so just playing to find out what I can do, what will happen. And this, like you say, what will happen if, and then you just start getting all your iffy things down. Let's see. I think I'm gonna take a couple colors here, contrasting, and I'm gonna use some of this red. Now, like I said, I put a kit on my, I listed a kit on my favorite things list for Amazon on my affiliate link. So you can kind of get an idea of some kits that are available, that if you haven't started doing this. Now, I don't think the kit would come with this kind of a mat. These kind of mats you have to buy like separately. And if you get to thinking that you really like it, you know. But a sponge, it comes, usually they come with some sort of a sponge or a wool mat that you can work with. I have found I really like this. And so then you pull your wool out. The felting, they call it wool felting is because they call it felting because once you put the wool together, once you have it together with your needles, then it turns into felt, and so that's why they call it felting. It's not felt until you um, actually felt it together. That is felting. Does that make sense? Heck no, buddy. Now, what I've seen, what I'm hearing now, I've watched so many different people, and so I'm getting different ideas now. But to take this and actually go a little bit at the time and cross hatch it a little bit is what I'm hearing a lot of people saying is the best way. Now, as I am felting this, as I am going over it with my needles, which this, I think this kind of a mat that looks like a scrub brush, and they just call it a mat. Let me check. Do I got the packaging? Yes, they just call it a needle felting mat. This one's by Clover, and ideal for large fancy work pieces like sweaters and mufflers. And then it also has a lot of information on the packaging here. And And so I think a lot of people, they might be going to have a, maybe they have a sweater and they might want a monogram on the front of the sweater, and they might lay the sweater across here and monogram with a wool. And so that's what they would use this with here. Now I want to put this one's more little curly. I'm going to put a little bit of this on here too. And I'm going to go up here a little bit and then get me a little bit more of this red. This is just, to me, it is so much fun to see what you come up with. Now, I watched one of Beth Schuler's videos, and she does a lot of actual images where she did one with a little snowman and a little fence and so she comes up a mailbox I saw, I think, and she does a lot of images that she will look at a picture and then replicate it in wool, and I think that's just absolutely amazing. Well, right now in my head I've got more of a, I don't know what you would call it. I'm just so interested in textile art, and so, and not so much an image, although I may try one of them eventually, but mostly mine is just for backgrounds and design. I want to see what it'll do. I want to see what I can make this do. And because I don't follow directions, like here, this is just that little piece of yarn I just pulled apart that one of the instructors said you can't use. Well, don't tell me I can't use something, because then I'm going to figure out why. I'm going to say, why? Why can't I use that? So this is just that piece of yarn that I pulled apart, and it's acrylic yarn. I'm just going to put that on top of there just like that, like I know what I'm doing. Like I'm the boss of me. I can do whatever I say. Don't tell me I can't do nothing. So I look forward to spending a little bit of time with Beth Schuler on Tuesday. As she goes live, I'll go with her, and she's going to show a lot of things that she has done, and which she showed a little bit, I think last night I was watching her, and she showed a little bit of what she was doing, and I'm amazed at how beautiful her work is. Oh, and then Becca, who goes on with her, I think, once a week on her live streams. I don't get to watch a lot of live streams because usually by the time I have time to watch a live stream, nobody's live streaming. But my evenings are pretty much taken up with Papa and family. So now there, then it just pulls right off of that mat, so nice. But look at this fabric that I'm building, starting with that piece of cheesecloth, or it's a gauze bandage is what it is. And but then, like now here I've got a piece of, this is just a piece of embroidery floss. Let me see, it's just wadded up here on my desk, which most things are usually just wadded up on my desk. So if I just take this and see, and this is what you do. Don't, when, let me put the number 8 on there. 8, there, I'm just made a number 8 out of that thread. And then I'm going to just go with that thread and my needles. And these needles, the needles, there's 7 needles in there, and a felting needle is a needle with barbs on it. It's got 2 or 3 barbs on each needle. And what it does is it snags onto the fibers in whatever you're punching, and it pushes them fibers on through to your back. to the back. I mean, I wouldn't even have to have a backing. Let's see. I'm going to, first I could get my number 8 on here. So I'm just going to, and you'll see that the design that you put on too will change some as you're felting it, because you are actually pushing those fibers down into whatever is behind them. So now that was just done on there with, see, you can see in the back where the purple from the threads, the fibers from that purple thread have gone all the way through. And I've got the yarn is on there, and I'll do something with it. I don't know what I'll do with that, but see, I'm playing, I'm learning, and that's what you have to do. Now I want to just take, and I have not done this before, so now I'm going to try it. I'm going to just take a piece of this roving. There'll be a test, so remember, this is called roving. Before it was, when it was pulled right off of the animal, it was just core wool. Then once it gets cleaned up and combed and stuff, then it's roving. So I'm going to take that piece there, and then I'm going to take a little piece here. These must be 2 different brands, because this red feels so different than this. And I'm just going to put just the wool down. Just the wool. And then I'm going to get my Stabronio, and I'm just put that together, right together on there. Let's get it together, you guys. Let me take this piece and just flip it over. And let's get this piece, flip it over. Let's get this red from this side, flip that over. And then this last piece, flip it over and felt it on. Now I've got that whole thing felted together, and I got like a little square, or like a rectangle square, like a sort of square, like a sort of a rectangle, sort of square. And now pull it off the mat. Almost pulled up every little piece right off the mat, and I have this little square of wool. Now and it's actually very felty. Let me see, I'm going to go from the other side too and see if I can get it even flatter and thinner. And then, because I love spirit stitching, where I can, and my spirit stitching is free spirit stitching, just whatever. You can use your sewing machine, you can use a needle, you can use any kind of a needle, felting needles. It's just, and this is actually a type of stitching. And so a lot of slow stitching that it is so popular right now is mostly anything you can do with a needle and thread. So it can be some embroidery mixed with any, like a cantha stitch or borrow stitch, or whatever you can do with a needle and thread. And but slow stitching, you don't use a sewing machine. Well, then free spirit stitching, you can use all those things, plus you can use a sewing machine, and you can felt, and you can do anything on your free spirit. So you let your spirit guide you on that. So there, now I pull that off of there. And Now, if I were to wet this a little bit and just, if I were to wet this with a little soapy water, just like it is right here, then I could have, I think that might be what they might call wet felting, but that, don't take my word for that one because I don't really know anything about wet felting except what I just told you. But if I took this and I wet it and I put weight on it and let it dry, this would come thin like almost a piece of paper, and it almost would look like handmade paper. And so, which I have even on one of my pieces, I have even put paper underneath the wool, and I have even used paper and it's attached. But now, like this, so this, I'll play with this. I don't know what I'll do with that, but see, because I'm just playing and learning and just getting the feeling of this, then anything goes. So here, I love this. I first did that one like this little piece on the gauze, on the gauze fabric, and then after I pulled that one off of the mat, I put it on this little piece of burlap, but it's kind of curled up. I got to get that flattened somehow. But I think this one is going to end up on my Paris piece that I'm doing, because I'm doing a Paris piece, but now it's hanging just on my design wall. Doesn't that sound fancy? Design wall? It's hanging on my design wall. You know what I just, no, I can't get it right now because my camera's on it. I just noticed a piece of eyelash trim. Woo! Wonder what that would happen. What would happen? I'm going to try that later. Okay, so anyhow, this is somehow, I think, going to be added to that piece, which is a larger piece. Now, and then I'll show you one more thing and I'll leave you alone. Let me put that down in my bag of wool. And I don't want to lose my little pieces here. Okay, this is a piece I'm working on. This is a little bit larger. This is also, it's a piece of upholstery fabric. Now this is a play piece as well because I'm just trying things. So like here I put a piece of fabric. That was a piece of sari fabric. This, the lettering is this thread here that, and I'm not sure exactly what this thread is, but it's what is made for punch embroidery. Punch embroidery was very, 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 very common a few years ago. People were doing it on denim jackets and things. That's what this is, but it's very soft, and I think it's cotton. I believe it's just 100% cotton. I do believe. I'm not sure though. But see, now you can get this stuff. You can find it in vintage stores or thrift shops a lot. That's what I used here, and all I did was just kind of formed the letters out of, you know, pieces. I would just take like a piece and go like this, and like this, and then I would just lay it down wherever and just start felting it on, just needle felting it on, and that's how that got there. And then I took some of the lighter colored wool and I went over the top of it and felted that on there. And well, this is a little button thing. I might take that back off of there because I might want to use that on something else. And then here I would, this is where there's actually a piece of fabric right underneath here. You can't hardly see it, but it's there. And then this is using that acrylic yarn, right? This piece. This here, this flower I made using all, yep, that was all, no, I did use wool on this. This is wool, but I would just kind of roll it into a little circle and felt it on and then put that in the middle. Yeah, that was wool, like this same brown wool here. And this is wool here. And this here, then even here, I've got a piece of rope. See, I'm trying everything. This is like a nylon rope Well, I pulled some of that apart. And it's very silky, like a nylon rope. And I pulled that apart, and I put that right here and felted it on there, and it's just fine. It goes right in there just perfect, and it's nice because it's got that real shiny look to it. So that's with that, and that is, like I say, it's like a nylon or something. I just want to try every kind of fiber that I have in my whole house and see what it will do with the needles and a mat. And so, let's see, it's got a giraffe right in the center. I'm going to be stitching all the way around the giraffe there. So that, and then there's a little monkey right over here. And this here, and like I say, oh, and here I got a feather. I put a feather in here. And then I added some yarn over that feather. Oh, and then here I put a piece of burlap, and that's a piece of burlap, and then I put some um, wool over the burlap and just felted it on there, and so that held the burlap to the to the um, to the fabric. You can see on the back where it's pulled that right through. And so I don't think it actually, you could, I don't believe you could actually put the burlap on there by itself. It wouldn't felt to it. But by putting the wool over the felt, it held it on there. So that's basically what I'm doing with this piece, is just playing with it. And there's another piece. Oh, I have burlap underneath this flower too. So see, you can see the burlap through it. And so, and there's some red burlap under there, a little piece of red burlap with gold speckles on it, but it's held down with the wool. So that's just all I kind of wanted to tell you today. And because, and I don't mean to be trying to sound like I know anything, because I know nothing. And here I just kind of was stitching a piece of, oh, actually I did felt that little piece to it, to this, just this piece of fabric, and it did felt. You can see the green in the back where it actually did felt through. But then I went and just did some stitching on top of it. And oh, then under here I had a piece of a baby wipe, and I put that on there and felted. The baby wipe did not felt to the fabric, but then when I put some wool over it, it did felt to it. And so I am having so much fun with this, because this, I don't plan it to be anything when it's finished, um, if it'll ever even be finished. But I think I'm going to let that little giraffe, I'm not going to cover up that giraffe. And then this little monkey here, little monkey shine is there. He's going to, I thought there was another monkey, but maybe not. Just that little monkey right there. That little monkey sitting right there. But anyway, I've got another piece of this fabric too. And so this one is just for me to play and practice, play and practice. And so when you first start doing something with your wool, don't expect to have the perfect piece. That's what I did before. When I first bought wool 15 years ago, or it might have even been longer, and I did that rug, and I enjoyed doing the rug, but it was done. Um, it wasn't. It wasn't needle felted together. It was every. Well, first we put a binding around onto a piece of fabric. I laid it on a piece of fabric. Then we put all this wool. Oh no! Then we put the design, whatever the design on the rug was going to be, and then we put wool all over the top of that. And then it was wet. We sprayed it with the soapy water, with had alum or something in it. I don't remember. And sprayed that. But then the whole thing got rolled up on a another piece of fabric went over it, and then the whole thing got rolled up on a swim noodle, on a piece of a swim noodle, real tight, got rolled up. And it then the following week when we all went back, then our rugs had been rolled up all week, and they were dry then, and it made. And I don't even have it. Well, I might have it, but it's, I don't know where it is. But and so I guess that was sort of wet felting, although they just didn't. They just called it wool rug making when I went to this class. So and it was wet, so I guess it might have been wet felting. But I'm going to learn more from. I'm looking forward to see what I can learn from Beth as when I go on live with her next Tuesday. So next Tuesday, if you're not doing anything, go to Beth Schuler's channel, and I'm going to go on with her. I won't stay on with her. I notice she does her lives about 4 hours, and I won't go 4 hours, but I'll be on there for a little while. But thank you for watching this. Um, just kind of almost like a little introduction or something. And like I say, I don't know enough to teach it, but I don't know enough of anything to teach. So I've never been a good teacher. Well, I was a good teacher when I was a kindergarten teacher, but then heck, I was only teaching the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. But yeah, this is what I really like, this pad, but you can use a regular sponge. And I think most kits come with like a sponge. Then this is something different, but I really like this. I think I'll go ahead and put this on my favorites list too, so you can see what this. They call this one large one, so they must have a smaller one too that you can get. But anyway, and this is they have different ones of these 7 needles. They've got a 3 needle, you can get a 1 needle handle, and you don't even need a handle really for 1 needle. But this one holds 7 needles, and then they have 3. I don't know if they've got them in different sizes. But even like this one, I wouldn't have to put all 7 needles in there. I could put just 3 needles in there if I want. I could just put just 1 needle in there and still use it. I can't get that top off of there. But anyway, that comes off and then the needles go down in there. And so, yeah, that's how that goes. How long have I bothered you? Good night, 52 minutes. I try and make a short video. Do you think it ever happens? No, it doesn't. Oh, laughter through the tears. Did I read that one? Okay. If I did, I'm going to read it again. This comes from the Lead Us Safely Home from the Salutations collection book, and this one here is written by Clay Harrison. It says, "Laughter through the tears. Friendship is a golden thread that binds our hearts with love, a bond that reaches to the stars that twinkle high above. Friends see the pain behind the smile and come before we call to walk with us that extra mile and lift us when we fall. Friends see beyond our failures the person we can be, and they never are too busy to share a cup of tea. Friends are the glue God gives us to mend a broken heart, the anodyne that sustains us when our world falls apart. Friendship is a precious thing that lives beyond the years, a looking glass that lets us see the laughter through the tears." And when I open this book up and I read a page without looking ahead of time, it seems like I always open it up to a page of something that I really need to hear. And I needed to hear, I have depended on my friends. I don't have a lot of local friends here that I can talk to, but I have so many online friends that and lately most of you know that I've had a loss in my family, and it's very sad. And there's sad things that happen, and sometimes it's like, and I've gotten messages from all of you, from so many of you, these last, well, 10 days. I guess it's been since my brother passed away. But I've gotten so much love. And even though I've met very few of you in person, I have met some of my subscribers in person, and oh my gosh, everyone is better than the next. Everyone is better than the next. I'm telling you. And so, friendship is a precious thing that lives beyond the years, a looking glass that lets us see the laughter through the tears. This is perfect. I love it. And I thank you all for being you. I thank you for watching this. I hope you come back. And yeah, all I can say is I love you. May God watch over you every step you take, every move you make, keep you safe, keep you happy, keep you healthy, keep you humble. And like I say, I'll see you on the next video. God bless you all.